You ever wonder why some women walk into a room and instantly command attention without saying a word? Why certain women are spoken to differently, treated with a level of care, honor, and respect that seems almost automatic? It's not about beauty. It's not about how loud they are or how many followers they've got. It's about boundaries. There's something magnetic about a woman who knows exactly where her line is and refuses to let anyone cross it. She doesn't need to prove her worth. She doesn't raise her voice to be heard. She's not cold, but she's clear. And that clarity, it earns respect, not just from women, but from men who quickly realize this is not someone to play with. Because here's the truth, nobody tells you. Men do not respect what is easily given, constantly available, or endlessly forgiving. They respect what is earned, what is steady, and what does not bend for pressure. If you've ever felt like you're being overlooked, disrespected, or not taken seriously, this message is for you. If you've ever given your energy, your time, your love, only to be left feeling empty, unappreciated, or worse, this is your wake-up call. There are 5 boundaries that, when you set them, live them, and protect them, shift everything. Not only will you earn respect from the men around you, but more importantly, you'll start respecting yourself in ways you never have before. And once that happens, there's no going back. Let's talk about it. When you don't know who you are, you'll believe anyone who tells you who they think you should be. And that is dangerous, because when a man senses that you're unsure about your worth, he won't treat you based on who you are. He'll treat you based on what you're willing to settle for. That's the first test. That's the first filter. Self-worth is not about arrogance. It's not about pretending you're better than anyone. It's about knowing deep in your bones that you don't need to be chosen to feel valuable. You don't need to be validated to feel enough. You're already enough the moment you decided to stop negotiating your value for attention. See, most people think confidence is something you show, but real confidence is something you protect. It's in the choices you make. It's in the things you say no to. It's in how you walk away when something doesn't align with your standards. Even if your heart wants to stay, that's self-worth. Think about how many times you've silenced your gut just to keep someone close. You told yourself, it's okay, maybe I'm asking for too much, when deep down you knew you weren't. You convinced yourself that crumbs were better than nothing. But here's the thing, every time you accept less than you deserve, you tell the world how to treat you. Men pay attention to what you tolerate. They notice when you laugh off, disrespect, when you let things slide that make you uncomfortable, when you adjust your boundaries just to keep the peace. And the moment they see that, they test you again and again, until one day you don't even recognize the woman in the mirror because you've made yourself smaller for someone who never deserved the space. But when you know your worth, you don't chase, you don't beg, and you don't plead. You attract, you allow, and you walk away without guilt when something doesn't align. Because you're not afraid of losing someone, you're afraid of losing yourself. There's power in stillness. There's power in not reacting. There's power in letting people misunderstand you rather than compromising your truth. When you have self-worth, you don't argue your value. You don't convince someone to see it. You let your energy speak, and if they can't feel it, you don't force it. Respect starts the moment you make a decision. I will no longer participate in anything that makes me feel less than who I am. That decision changes your life. Because the version of you who knows her worth doesn't need to check his phone, decode his mixed signals, or wonder why he's pulling away. She knows that confusion is a form of rejection. She knows that clarity is kindness, and if he can't offer either, he doesn't get access. Now here's the catch. The moment you start standing in your worth, you will lose people. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries. People who liked you better when you were quiet, agreeable, and convenient. And that's okay. Let them go. The only people who will be uncomfortable with your growth are the ones who could never meet you there anyway. You don't build self-worth by waiting for someone to choose you. You build it by choosing yourself over and over again. You build it by keeping the promises you make to yourself, by doing the hard thing, by walking away from good enough in pursuit of what's meant for you. And don't think men don't notice this. They do. The way you speak about yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you set the tone in every room you walk into. Men may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They feel when you are grounded, clear, and immovable. They feel when you are a woman who is not waiting to be rescued, but who knows she is the rescue. You want a man to respect you. Show him that you respect yourself first. Show him that you are not afraid to be alone, if it means honoring your peace. Show him that love doesn't require the sacrifice of your dignity. Show him that your boundaries are not walls, they are doors, and only those who knock with integrity get to enter. It's easy to be kind when you're being loved, the right way. But can you still be kind when you have to walk away? Can you still be graceful when you're not being chosen? That's the test. That's where self-worth lives. Not in the moments where everything is easy, but in the moments where you have to choose yourself over comfort. When a man sees a woman who does not flinch, when her worth is tested, who does not beg for breadcrumbs, who doesn't mold herself to fit into his world, he takes a step back, not out of fear, but out of respect, because he realizes that this is a woman he cannot manipulate, cannot shake, cannot lead astray. This is a woman who is rooted, and rooted women don't chase. They grow. They bloom. And if he's wise, he'll learn to grow beside her. If not, she will continue to rise, with or without him. That's the level, that's the energy, and that's the boundary of self-worth that changes everything. There's a moment in every relationship, romantic, platonic, or professional, where someone will try to pull you into their emotional chaos. They'll push your buttons, test your patience, and try to provoke a reaction. And in that moment, you have two choices. You can get pulled into the storm, or you can remain the calm. The choice you make will determine how much respect you earn. Men in particular pay close attention to how you handle pressure, not just the external kind, but emotional pressure. They notice if you lose control when you're angry. They watch how you react when you're disappointed or triggered. They hear the tone of your voice when you feel dismissed. And they measure your strength by your ability to remain composed, not cold, not silent, but in control. When a woman can master her emotional responses, she becomes dangerous in the best way. Because she's no longer being ruled by impulse or manipulated by moods. She chooses her words. She guards her energy. She protects her peace like it's sacred, because it is. You've probably been there before. That moment when you're trying to explain yourself, trying to be heard, trying to argue your side, and instead of resolution, it turns into a power struggle, a shouting match, a game of who can hit lower. And when it's all over, you feel drained, defeated, and somehow still misunderstood. That's the storm. And every time you step into it, you lose a piece of your power. Emotional control is not about suppressing your feelings. It's about understanding that not every feeling deserves a reaction. And not every reaction deserves your energy. You can feel deeply and still respond wisely. You can love someone and still walk away from conversations that go nowhere. You can care and still say, I'm not going to engage in this right now. That is strength. There's a misconception that being emotional is a weakness. It's not. But being emotionally reckless, that's what costs you respect. When you lash out, when you throw words like weapons, when you let someone else's behavior dictate your peace, that's when you give your power away. And the truth is, people remember how you made them feel. Not just when things were good, but especially when things got hard. Men respect women who know how to hold their own without losing their cool. A woman who doesn't yell to be heard, but speaks with clarity and intent. A woman who doesn't play emotional games, who doesn't cry manipulation or throw ultimatums just to get a reaction. A woman who says, this is what I expect, and if you can't meet that, I'll move on with grace, not resentment. That kind of composure doesn't just come overnight. It comes from doing the internal work, from sitting with your emotions and asking, what's really triggering me right now? It comes from choosing peace over being right, from knowing that just because someone is throwing chaos your way doesn't mean you have to catch it. You ever notice how some people will poke and poke just to get a rise out of you? That's not random. That's a tactic. When you respond emotionally, they gain control. But when you stay grounded, when you don't take the bait, when you look someone in the eye and say, I won't be pulled into this, it changes the dynamic instantly. Because now you're the one in control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. And let's be real. Emotional control doesn't mean you don't get upset. It means you don't let your upset drive the conversation. It means you step back before you step forward. You pause, you think, you ask yourself, what's the outcome I actually want here? And is this the way to get it? Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not react at all. In those moments, you teach people, men especially, that you are not available for emotional warfare. You don't do drama. You don't do chaos. You don't do manipulation. You're not there to fight. You're there to build. And if someone's trying to tear that down, you'll step away rather than be dragged down with it. Respect isn't earned in loud moments. It's earned in the quiet ones, when you could have reacted but you chose peace instead. When you could have screamed but you chose to speak with clarity. When you could have stayed in the argument but instead you said, I value myself too much to keep doing this. That's what earns respect, not just from him, but from yourself. Because the moment you learn to control your emotions, you stop handing over your power to people who didn't earn it. You stop trying to prove your point to people who've already decided not to listen. You stop engaging in conversations that go in circles and start investing in yourself, your peace, your growth. And when you operate from that place, when your emotional state is not dependent on how someone else behaves, you become untouchable. Because now you are the storm, not the one that brings destruction, but the one that stands firm, no matter what comes its way. So, the next time someone tries to pull you into their chaos, remember this: you don't owe anyone your emotional stability, but you do owe it to yourself. Your peace is not negotiable. Your energy is not up for grabs. You control your reactions, and in doing so, you command the kind of respect that cannot be faked, forced, or forgotten. Your time is not just hours on a clock. It's your energy, your presence, your essence. And when you start treating it like a valuable currency, the people around you will too. But the moment you give it away freely, without thought, without standards, without discernment, you send a silent message. You don't have to earn access to me. And that message shapes how people treat you, especially men. Respect begins where access ends. A man will value what he has to work for. Not in a manipulative, play hard to get kind of way, but in a deeply intentional way where he understands that your time is something he has to qualify for. That being around you, speaking to you, sharing space with you, none of that is guaranteed. It's earned. But here's where so many women get trapped. They confuse availability with love. They think, if I'm always there, he'll see how loyal I am. If I answer right away, he'll know I care. If I rearrange my schedule to see him, he'll appreciate it. But in reality, he starts to expect it. And what's expected is no longer respected. Think about it. When someone is always available, always accessible, always waiting on your call, do you move with urgency? Do you prioritize them the same way you would if you had to actually pursue their time? Probably not. And men are no different. If you give too much too soon, they stop seeing it as special. They stop seeing you as special. It starts small. Maybe he cancels plans last minute and you say, it's okay, I understand. Maybe he only texts late at night and you still reply thinking something is better than nothing. Maybe he only wants to see you when it's convenient for him and you rearrange your day just to fit into his. But each time you do that, you chip away at your own boundaries. You become an option, not a priority. Making someone earn your energy isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being clear. It's about knowing that your time is connected to your worth. You don't show up for people who don't show up for you. You don't invest in conversations that go nowhere. You don't sit around waiting for someone who hasn't proven they're serious. You are not a backup plan. You are not a second choice. And your schedule should reflect that. When a woman values her time, everything shifts. She's not rushing to reply to every message. She's not dropping everything to be available for maybe. She moves with purpose. Her days are filled with things that matter. Her goals, her growth, her peace. And because of that, when she does give someone her time, it's intentional. It's meaningful. It has weight. Men feel that. They notice when you're not quick to answer every text, not because you're playing games, but because you're busy building your life. They respect that you're not lingering by the phone, waiting for breadcrumbs. They see that they're not the center of your world, but that if they want to be a part of it, they'll have to rise to the level you operate on. And if they don't, you don't chase. You don't question your value. You simply continue. Because the woman who guards her time doesn't beg for anyone to fill it. She knows she's not empty. She knows she doesn't need someone to complete her day. She already has purpose. She already has direction. You see, we teach people how to treat us by what we allow. If you allow your time to be wasted, it will be, if you allow last-minute plans, they'll become the norm. If you continue to give when someone hasn't even asked how you are, you set a dangerous precedent, one where your effort becomes expected, not appreciated. But when you start saying no, when you start saying that doesn't work for me, all right, I'm unavailable, something incredible happens. You shift the power dynamic, not in a way that controls or manipulates, but in a way that protects your peace. You stop entertaining people who are inconsistent. You stop replying out of guilt. You stop feeling the need to prove that you're worth loving because you know you are. And your time reflects that. Respect isn't loud. It's subtle. It's in the hesitation someone has before calling you at midnight. It's in the effort they put into planning time with you. Knowing they can't just show up whenever they feel like it. It's in the awareness that you have a full life, and if they want to be part of it, they have to bring value, not chaos. That's how you make a man earn your energy. You don't just say you value yourself. You live like it. You move like it. You make decisions from that place. You don't try to convince someone that you're worth their time. You know that your time is the real prize. And yes, some people will fall off when you start enforcing this boundary. They'll say you've changed, that you're too busy, too hard to reach. But the ones who really value you, they'll adjust. They'll rise. They'll show up with clarity and consistency, not confusion and convenience. So the next time your phone rings, the next time someone sends a lazy message, the next time you're asked to rearrange your world for someone who wouldn't do the same, pause. Ask yourself, does this align with my worth? Is this how someone treats something valuable? Because once you learn how to value your time, you'll stop giving it to people who don't. And in that moment, you'll earn more than just respect. You'll earn peace, freedom, and power. There's a dangerous illusion that many women fall into when navigating relationships. The belief that a man being nice is enough reason to compromise their standards. He's nice, they say. So maybe I'm asking for too much. But here's the truth. Being nice is the absolute bare minimum. It's not a qualification. It's not a bonus. It's not the reason to ignore your values, your needs, or your non-negotiables. When a woman starts lowering her standards simply because a man is polite, attentive, or doesn't raise his voice, she begins eroding the very boundaries that protect her dignity, worth, and long-term happiness. Standards are not walls built out of arrogance or pride. They're not about perfection. They are rooted in self-respect. Your standards define what you're willing to tolerate, the energy you're open to receiving, and the kind of love you believe you deserve. And if you bend those standards for someone just because they appear nice, you may soon find yourself in a place of confusion, dissatisfaction, and regret. Because let's be honest, niceness without consistency, emotional maturity, shared values, or genuine respect is just a pleasant mask. Being nice is easy. Anyone can smile, hold the door open, say the right things, or act polite. But does he truly respect your goals, your boundaries, your dreams? Does he honor your time? Does he listen to you without making it about himself? Does he support your independence instead of trying to tame it? Niceness without alignment is misleading. It makes you feel guilty for questioning things, for wanting more, for desiring substance and depth. That guilt becomes the weapon that keeps you trapped in a situation where your standards are slowly dissolved under the guise of he means well. But standards are not meant to be flexible when it comes to your non-negotiables. Being with someone kind shouldn't mean ignoring that he's inconsistent. Being with someone charming shouldn't mean overlooking his lack of ambition or emotional availability. A man can be nice and still not be the right man for you. He can be pleasant and still be completely unqualified to walk beside you in life. Just because he treats you decently doesn't mean he deserves access to your heart, your body, or your future.
You need to remember this. You are not hard to love. You're just unwilling to be loved poorly. And that's what your standards protect you from, being loved in a way that chips away at your identity.
A nice man will not hesitate to take advantage of a woman with blurred boundaries. He may not do it intentionally, but passivity is just as harmful as aggression when it comes to emotional connection. If he's passive about commitment, passive about growth, passive about how he treats you, that niceness turns into complacency. And the moment you accept that as enough, you begin teaching yourself to settle. Your standards should challenge a man to rise, not invite him to remain comfortable. If he's truly interested in building something real, he won't see your standards as obstacles. He'll see them as a framework. He won't be offended that you expect him to be emotionally present, spiritually mature, consistent, or respectful of your time and body. In fact, a man who is truly ready will be inspired by your standards because they speak of your self-worth. They let him know that you're not looking for a casual experience. You're inviting partnership, alignment, and growth. Some women confuse being high maintenance with having standards, but there is a world of difference between superficial demands and soul-deep expectations. Wanting a man to open up emotionally is not too much. Wanting honesty, accountability, vision, or purpose is not being extra. Wanting to feel seen, heard, protected, and prioritized is not unreasonable. If anything, those are the foundations of any healthy relationship. And if someone tells you that your standards are too high, it usually means they're not capable or willing to meet them. The truth is, when you lower your standards to accommodate someone's mediocrity, you don't just lose the quality of the relationship, you lose yourself. You lose touch with your inner compass. You start making excuses for behavior that once would have been unacceptable. You start dimming your light so they don't feel insecure. And before you know it, you're trapped in a connection that doesn't reflect your worth. All because you were trying to be understanding of someone who is simply nice. Let's be clear. You can appreciate a man's kindness and still walk away. You can respect his journey and still recognize that he's not your destination. You can care about his feelings and still choose your peace. Because your life isn't a charity. Your heart isn't a rehabilitation center for emotionally unavailable men. Your energy isn't a playground for indecisive lovers, and your standards are not negotiable just because someone is polite. So stand firm, keep your boundaries intact. Don't be swayed by charm or niceness or potential. Watch how he behaves when you say no. So observe how he reacts when you assert your needs. Pay attention to whether he respects your time, your space, your silence. That's where the truth lives. Not in his compliments, but in his consistency. Not in his promises, but in his actions. Not in his niceness, but in his integrity. You don't bend your standards because someone is better than the last. You hold them because you've grown, because you've healed, because you've fought too hard to settle for less than what's right. And because deep down, a man who's truly worthy will never ask you to compromise your value for his convenience. Keep your crown on. Let your standards speak before your feelings. And remember, a good heart deserves more than a nice man. It deserves a strong, intentional, and worthy one. There is a powerful shift that happens in a woman's life when she finally understands the difference between wanting a man and needing one. It's a shift that liberates her from emotional dependence, societal pressure, and the illusion that her completeness is found in someone else. When you know who you are, when you've built your own life, when you've fought your own battles, healed your own wounds, paid your own bills, and nurtured your own soul, you begin to approach love not from a place of desperation, but from a place of clarity. You stop looking for someone to save you, and you start seeking someone who can walk with you. This is the boundary of independence. It's not about arrogance or isolation. It's about power. The kind of power that comes from knowing your worth doesn't hinge on whether or not a man chooses you. It's the quiet confidence that says, I am whole, I am enough. And anyone who comes into my life will add to it, not define it. A woman who lives by this boundary doesn't beg for attention, chase affection, or tolerate inconsistency. She wants a connection, but she refuses to lose herself to have it. There's nothing wrong with wanting a man. Wanting companionship, love, support, and partnership is a natural desire. But the danger lies in turning that want into a need. A void you feel must be filled in order to be okay. That's where so many women lose themselves. They mistake emotional attachment for love and dependency for connection. They settle for bare minimums just to avoid loneliness. They allow men to dictate their value because they've built their sense of identity around being chosen. But when you build your life from the inside out, spiritually, emotionally, financially, mentally, you start to realize that a man isn't a requirement for happiness. He's a bonus. He's not the source of your peace. He complements the peace you've already created. You no longer tolerate disrespect, dishonesty, or emotional chaos. Just to say you have someone, you don't stay in relationships out of fear. You stay only when there is love, growth, and mutual respect. The truth is, neediness is not romantic. It doesn't inspire love. It breeds imbalance. When you feel like you need someone, you unconsciously hand them your power. You become afraid to speak up, to set boundaries, to walk away when something doesn't feel right. You ignore red flags. You overcompensate. You make excuses for behavior that hurts you. Because the thought of being alone feels scarier than being treated poorly. But independence changes that. Independence teaches you to choose peace over presence, to choose solitude over suffering, to choose self-respect over superficial attachment. It gives you the courage to walk away from what no longer serves you. Not because you're heartless, but because you've worked too hard to be whole to allow anyone to fracture you again. It's not that you don't want love, it's that you refuse to be enslaved by it. This kind of independence doesn't mean you push people away. It doesn't mean you stop being vulnerable or reject intimacy. It simply means your foundation is solid. Your joy isn't dependent on anyone else's approval or attention. You don't need someone to complete you because you've already done the work to become complete. You don't need constant reassurance because your validation comes from within. And when you enter a relationship from that place, everything changes. Suddenly love becomes a choice, not a crutch. You're not there because you're afraid of being alone. You're there because you see value in building something meaningful together. You hold your own. You're able to give without losing. You can receive love without feeling unworthy. You maintain your standards because you know that being alone and fulfilled is far better than being with someone and feeling empty. Independence also sets the tone for how a man treats you. When a man realizes you're with him because you want to be, not because you need to be, he either steps up or steps off. He can't manipulate you with silence. He can't control you with crumbs. He can't play power games because you've already won the most important battle, the one within yourself. You don't react from fear. You respond from self-awareness. And that changes the whole dynamic. A woman who doesn't need a man is a woman who can love with freedom. She's not trying to possess or be possessed. She's not trying to prove anything. She's not in a rush to force something that isn't real. She doesn't fall for potential. She values alignment. She doesn't chase, she attracts. And what she attracts is a different kind of man. A man who values her strength, not fears it. A man who respects her boundaries, not tests them. A man who sees her independence as a gift, not a threat. So if you're in a place where you feel like you're not enough unless you're in a relationship, pause, breathe, come back to yourself. Ask yourself, what do I truly need that I believe only a man can give me? Is it validation, security, affection? If the answer is yes, start there. Start meeting your own needs. Start building your own life. Because the more you give to yourself, the less power you give others to break you. You were not born to be half of a whole. You were born to be whole all by yourself. And when love comes, let it be the overflow, not the lifeline. Want a man, but don't need one. Because the moment you realize you don't need anyone to complete you is the moment you become truly unstoppable. That is the boundary of independence, and it will guard your peace, your purpose, and your power like nothing else ever will. So here's the truth. When you know who you are, when you've built your life from the inside out, you no longer beg for love, chase attention, or shrink yourself to be chosen. You don't need a man to define your value, to give your life meaning, or to validate your worth. You can want love and still walk away when it dishonors your soul. You can desire connection and still choose solitude over chaos. The boundary independence is your power. It's the declaration that your happiness is not for sale, your peace is not negotiable, and your identity is not up for compromise. Let the world know you are not waiting to be completed. You are choosing to be honored, and the man who steps into your life must meet you where you are, whole, grounded, and already free, because a woman who doesn't need a man but chooses one from a place of strength, that's a woman no one can play with, break, or forget. Stay rooted in that truth. Your independence isn't a threat, it's your crown. Wear it boldly.